I don't really, well, it's an interesting point. Well, what can be fixed and what can't be fixed? Well, if you go back to the admin scale, you've got your goals and purposes, policies, plans, so on down the admin scale. Goals are fundamental to a being. You and I and everybody has goals coming into a relationship or coming into any area. We've already got goals. And we enter into a relationship with the idea that we can achieve our goals with that person as a partner or a friend or a coworker. And that's why we do it. And so when you are in a relationship with somebody and you find that their goals are in conflict with your goals, what you have there is you have an unsolvable problem. There really is no fix to that, because in the final analysis, that's a mishire. You should never have gotten together with somebody who conflicts with your goals. Like Hellerite says, your goals don't have to be the same, but they can't conflict. Because of the nature of the reactive mind, if you have conflicting goals, you're going to end up enemies. It's inevitable. It always happens that way. And when people have unsolvable problems that they can't solve, a lot of times that's really why. But the things that are solvable occur a little bit lower on the admin scale. Let's say they agree on the goals. They both want financial stability, but they disagree on the policy of how to do that. One person thinks they can achieve financial stability by saving money, and the other thinks they can achieve financial stability by running up credit cards. Well, that's a discussable situation. You can look at stats, you can look at policy, you can look at common sense, and maybe come to some agreement. Plans you can work out, programs, etc., etc. Those are fixable problems. And people make one or two mistakes with marriages and relationships. They either try to fix something that can't be fixed, and they hang in there until the last dog is hung. Sorry for the idiom. Or they simply throw away something that is readily fixable because of some momentary upset. So it's important to really understand the difference between those things. So anyway, there's a scale that talks about the deterioration of this kind of a deterioration when you go out of calm with somebody, you end up in conflict with them. It's a pan-determinism scale, and I'll just read it to you. The pan-determinism is defined as a willingness to start, change, and stop in any and all dynamics. And that deteriorates into fighting, a willingness to fight things and choose sides. That, when you're in pan-determinism, you're more or less identityless, and you're not pushing aside, you're simply being. And you can see both sides of things, and you don't feel a need to take sides. Objective, fighting, willingness to fight things and choose sides. Now, when people fight with each other, it's painful. They experience pain, they inflict pain, so they have overts and they have withhold. They start to withhold themselves from the area. And what that deteriorates into is must and must not happen again. So when you've been inflicted upon painfully, you decide that this must not happen again. And what does that leave in a relationship? That leaves some willingness to associate and repair, but no willingness to let certain things happen again. So you already got one foot out the door, and you're already on a withdrawal. And so the things that you absolutely are adamant about never happening again are guaranteed to happen again. So eventually the person goes into an unwillingness to repair. And you find in marriages over time, there become some areas that they've argued about till the cows come home, and they've just decided not to argue about it anymore, and there's no willingness to even make an attempt to repair that area. They're still willing to associate. So then they go into, but they're still willing to repair somewhat. Certain things are willing to repair, certain things not. But that will deteriorate, and at that point, a person willingness to repair it all drops out, and they're just willing to associate somewhat with the other person. That's where you get people living in the same house, but they never talk to each other. And that deteriorates into unwilling to repair anything, unwilling to associate with anything about that person. And that's when, you know, it doesn't exist anymore.
Does that come along with,
So,
Trey, does that come along with failed purposes and kind of, you know, losses and failed purposes?
well, it comes along with, yes, does that come along with failed purposes and losses? Well, I mean, these are failed purposes and losses, and people will experience that. When you have a failed purpose, you have lack of energy, you have tiredness. You know, you can see this, you're doing 2D counseling, you know, and she starts up about blah, 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 and he goes, no. Anyway, it's just the way it is, but, you know, these are departures from a cause-cause relationship. A cause-cause relationship is a pan-determined relationship. Willingness to start, change, stop on any and all dynamics, you know. And it can deteriorate into a domination, nullification relationship where, see, here's what people will try to do. When a person feels himself out of agreement with their mate, but they still want to keep the marriage, what they're going to do is they're going to drop this cause-cause thing and allowing the person to be in control of their own actions. And they try to bypass and they take direct control of the other person in their life and dominate them. And that is what they will do. And you look in a relationship and say, well, at one point there was a power struggle, but there's no more power struggle. There's just a cause-effect relationship. You know, the wife does what she's told, or the husband, you know, toes the line, and that's the end of it. You know, somebody's in control, somebody's being controlled. But that's, you know, ends up being a domination, nullification relationship. And that just deteriorates into an effect relationship where both people are in apathy about it. And that's where you get relationships that last forever because everybody's in apathy about getting into a new one. And I talked earlier about people being bitter about the second dynamic. Well, when you're bitter on the second dynamic, it means you've crashed and you've burned. And but why would that make you feel like you didn't want to try again? Well, really because you feel that what's the guarantee it won't happen again? So you know, it's just like it must not happen again. You know, I must not, you know, feel miserable again. Nothing makes you feel miserable like a big 2D breakup, boy. If you don't know you have a case, you know, where something like that happens to you, you know you have a case. That's when all the country songs start to make sense to you. But once you understand how to put together a Sane group, you can spot what the error was. If you spot what the errors were that led to this debacle, then it puts the hope factor back there. You know, you can, because you know, you have these goals. I mean, everybody has goals on the second dynamic, whether they're completely turned off on it or not. But, you know, once you get rid of it, you know, auditing is important too. You can run out the loss, you can run out the failed purposes and the ERC breaks and all that. See, I mean, overts and withholds are important, and you can get a lot of resurgence by pulling overts and withholds. But people think overts and withholds are basic. They're not basic, because you don't commit overts on people that you're friends with. You don't commit overts on your teammates. You commit overts on your opponents and your enemies. So you have to get into that frame of mind where somebody is an opponent to you before you even would ever commit an overt on them or have a withhold from them. You don't have withhold from teammates. In fact, the definition of a teammate is somebody you don't have withholds from. You have withholds from opponents because you don't want them to know what you're up to. Right?
It's like playing poker.
Well, yeah, you got a table full of opponents there.
I know what you're up to.
All right. Okay. So once you can, if you can get in this promotion, sales, and delivery line in and maintain a cause-cause relationship, maintain this relationship through time, which is really the challenge, then gets into money, and that's actually, if all these other points are in, a fairly simple issue. I mean, people should be productive. They should be earning more than they're consuming. That's sort of a no-brainer. But the other thing is that you've got three categories of money. You've got your money, you've got her money, and you've got your mutual money. So everybody should have money that it's up to them only to spend. It's their money, and nobody has anything else to say about it. And then there's mutual money that you should agree upon. But the whole second dynamic should be organized that way. It's not that everything has to be agreed upon, because you can say, okay, your job is a social secretary, and you keep track of all the events that we need to go to and this and that, and I don't need to worry about that, or you keep the books and make sure we pay our taxes, and I don't need to worry about that, or okay, I'll buy the food and I'll pay the bills, and so you have individual zones of responsibility that you don't ever really worry about the other person with, yet the important things, the big issues, are discussed and agreed upon, and are done on the basis of what's good for everybody. One of the biggest misconceptions that people have on the second dynamic is that somehow it's a trap. Well, that's Woody Allen, But when you have a sane, when you have sanity on any dynamic, whether it's the first, second, or third, you have knowing, winning, trusting, and being free. When you know what's happening with your mate, when you know them, when you trust them, when you're having wins, interacting with them, you feel a sense of freedom. People think being single is being free. Well, I don't know. I felt freer when I got married, and everything worked out really well. I felt a lot more freedom. And but that same idea, can be expanded onto all the dynamics too. Elroy says, knowing, winning, trusting, being free, and so anyway, that's finances. People have their individual areas and they have their mutual areas, and everybody agrees on that. It's okay. Justice is important, making sure legal points are in. Nothing will tear a family apart faster than somebody getting into legal trouble because they've violated the law. And the last point on the Sane scale is morale. And a slight mistake that people make on this, really the only one that I've seen, is that they get so busy with work and this and that they never schedule time for each other. They sort of take each other for granted. And that's where somebody starts to feel neglected. Because there's never time, let's say you have kids and all your time is your kids and taking them to school, this and that. And you never have time to have your own relationship with your spouse. And so it's important to schedule time to talk, schedule time to have, directors meetings, to talk over issues, plan trips together, events, things like that. That's what really keeps the morale high. But morale is basically based on all the earlier points. If all the earlier points are in, then your morale is going to be high. And if your morale is low on the second dynamic, look and see which of these points can be improved. So there's one little thing at the end here where Elroy talks about, this is the second dynamic, and what we talked about here is creating a sane second dynamic. But it really is true for any of the dynamics, whether it's having a sane third dynamic, having a sane society, as unreal as that seems at sometimes. In any dynamic, because there's a little section here at the end of the same tape. He says, a complete person is being at least 7 dynamics. Such a person would be a god compared to normal human beings, but there seems to be no reason why there should not be such a person. Then he says something really important. There may be a lot of work in becoming such a person, But there was a lot of work in building the pyramids too, and there they are. Thank you. Are there any, you have to answer any questions? Dexter?
First of all, that was very, very excellent talk.
Very good, yes. Dexter was saying about there's a lot of creation of human ability processes that directly address some of these points. And certainly this material suggests a lot of things that can be done on an individual technical basis. You know, there's a lot of tech available. You know, you can do counseling, that's one thing, but sometimes you need to sit the person down and just run out their earlier bad experiences, painful experiences. That way their tone level comes up, they're a little bit more hopeful about the future. Yes?
Yeah, likewise, brilliant. I've never heard such a complete picture of the psychodynamic and the sanity scale. I know it. Where is it? It's in the
Org Series 22, I believe.
Org Series 22. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Okay, well, thank you again. I very much appreciate talking.